Hey guys, we're going to solve square root equations today. So we have a square root equation. We can see the square root here, and we want to solve for x. So just like any equation, we want to undo any adding and subtracting first. So I'm going to cancel out my 9. Bring down that -1 on the radical. Okay? Get rid of that undo multiplying and dividing. So undo multiplying by dividing, that's a -1 on the front there. Okay, so next we're going to undo the exponent. Remember that square root is x to the 1/2. We learned that first semester. So to cancel out that 1/2, we're going to square both sides. And then we finish inside the grouping symbol here to get our solution. X equals 5. Before you put a box around it, plug it back in, make sure it works. So plugging 5 back into the original equation. So we have the square root of 9, which is 3. 9 minus 3 equals 6. 6 equals 6. Checks out. Put a box around it. Good to go. Okay, next example. So we want to solve this equation for x. So the first thing we want to do here is we want to undo the addition here. So we're going to move that x over to the other side. We want that radical to be all by itself in order to cancel it out. Okay, so now that we have the radical all by itself, we're going to cancel it out by squaring. Now, this is very important. We have a group over here, 4 minus x. So in order to square it, we need to put it inside of a grouping symbol, like that. Very important. Notice up here, this one wasn't a group, so we were able to just put it on this single term. So, the square cancels out the square root, and I'm going to go ahead and FOIL this. So 4 squared is 16. And then to get the middle term, we're going to have 4 times -1, which is -4. And do that again, 4 times -1, which is -4. That would be your inner and your outer, which gives us -8x. And then we have -x squared, which is positive x squared, because a negative times a negative is a positive. So for those of you that are confused, you may want to do the box method on this. If you do the box method, you'll end up with this equation right here. Okay, so continuing on, now we have, all of a sudden, we have a quadratic equation. So to solve a quadratic equation, we're going to set the equation equal to 0. So I'm going to cancel out my x. I'm going to cancel out my -2. So now we have the 0 here. And I'm going to go ahead and switch everything around. I'm going to move the 0 on this side just because I like it this way. Put the x squared over here. That's going to be -9x. And that's going to be 18. Okay. We're going to go ahead and solve, remember. So we're going to factor this. And so we're going to use, let's see, 6 and 3 and make them both negative. So they add up to give us the bottom number, and they multiply to give us the top number. A value is 1. So our factors are x minus 6, x minus 3 equals 0. So this solution is going to be 6. This solution is going to be 3. Now before you box these answers, we need to check to make sure that they work. So let's start with the 6. Let's plug it into the original equation. We're going to check 6. So 6 minus 2 plus, plug the 6 in everywhere you see an x, so plus 6 equals 4. So checking that, 6 minus 2 is 4, square root of 4 is 2, 2 plus 6 equals 4, that would be 8 equals 4, no. So this number here is not a solution. This is what's called extraneous. Okay, so quickly, I checked the second solution and it came out, and so that would be our solution. This one is called extraneous. It's an extraneous solution. It doesn't work in the original equation. Okay, so number 3. Now notice we have a square root on both sides, so we can go ahead and square. Now watch how I'm doing this. This is important because we have a times 4 on the front. Square both sides. Okay, so be careful here because you have to square the 4, and then when you square this term, that means that that will cancel. Now we have a group under here, so we have to use a grouping symbol. This is very important to understand that this is a group, and even though we canceled out the square root, we still have to keep them together like this. It's 4 times x minus 1. It's 4 squared, which is 16, times the group x minus 1. So here, there's nothing multiplying times it except for 1. So that one doesn't need a grouping symbol because it doesn't have a number other than 1 in the front. So then we just solve this linear equation for x. And when you finish solving that, you are going to get 6/5. And when you plug it in, you are going to get a decimal, and that's okay, but it will check out. You have to plug it into both x's, and you will need to probably use your calculator, but they will equal out, so that is a solution. All right, I'll see you guys in class tomorrow.